What's good, y'all? Pooh Shiesty might honestly go down as one of the wildest, if not the dumbest street rappers we've ever seen. And financially speaking, Gucci Mane may have pulled off the smartest business move of his career. So we're going to break this down into two parts. First, we'll talk about the criminal side of everything, and then we'll get into what this could mean for the music business. Let's start with the criminal case, because Pooh Shiesty is accused of robbing Gucci Mane at gunpoint in what was supposedly an attempt to force his way out of his record deal. Since then, more details have surfaced. Now, from everything that's been reported, it doesn't even seem like the robbery happened because he actually needed anything. It almost comes across like it was done just because he could. Like, hand it over, I like what you've got, and my people want something too. More photos tied to the case have slowly been released, and one document claims that after getting the written contract release, Lontrell Williams Jr., better known as Pooh Shiesty, wanted to take it a step further. According to the filing, Roderick Davis, better known as Gucci Mane, was recorded on a cell phone saying Pooh Shiesty had been released from 1017. That's the crazy part. They allegedly wanted video proof of him signing the paperwork, which also meant creating video evidence of the crime itself. At the same time, prosecutors say co-defendant DeMarcus Glover stood at the studio door with a Draco while everything was happening. These newly released photos don't reveal much on their own, but they do show that prosecutors want people paying attention to this case. Then another development came out. Gucci Mane's security guard reportedly sent a letter to the judge asking that Pooh Shiesty be denied bond. Keep in mind, Pooh Shiesty had already been staying at a halfway house, so the fact that bond was even being discussed surprised a lot of people, although he clearly has the resources to hire strong attorneys. After reading that letter, though, it doesn't seem likely he'll be getting out anytime soon. The security guard identified himself as a victim and survivor of the October 11, 2026 incident and thanked the court for allowing him to submit a statement regarding bond. He asked that Pooh Shiesty remain in custody because of serious concerns for both his own safety and the safety of his family. He also stated that Pooh Shiesty knew he was a retired police officer, yet allegedly had no problem targeting him anyway. That's what makes this case stand out. Pooh Shiesty has built a reputation for being fearless, and some would say reckless, because this isn't even the first time he's allegedly committed a serious crime in front of law enforcement. Remember the previous case where he met someone to buy sneakers and marijuana? He reportedly showed up in a McLaren, and the other person suggested meeting outside a police station, thinking there was no way anything would happen there. Instead, prosecutors say the victim was robbed and shot, and surveillance cameras captured the entire incident. So, if someone is willing to do something like that right in front of a police station, it's understandable why the security guard says he's concerned. In his statement, he explained that he's the only victim who lives in Texas and fears Pooh Shiesty or someone connected to him could reach him or his family if the bond were granted. He also argued that these alleged crimes happened while Pooh Shiesty was already under court-ordered supervision, raising serious concerns about what could happen if he were released again. Honestly, that argument carries some weight. If Pooh Shiesty were released on bond now, he could potentially reconnect with people around him. Prosecutors claim he was still under monitored release when he allegedly lured Gucci Mane into the studio under the pretense of discussing a contract before carrying out the robbery. If someone is already facing the possibility of 10, 15, or even 20 years in prison, you can understand why witnesses might worry about retaliation. The security guard also pointed out that Pooh Shiesty had already been given a second chance through monitored release before allegedly becoming involved in another case involving a shooting. That appears to reference the earlier McLaren incident, although Pooh Shiesty has faced multiple legal issues over the years, including another situation involving gunfire at a nightclub. According to reports, someone allegedly grabbed money that had fallen, shots were fired, and yet another case followed. In the letter, the security guard said both he and his wife constantly worry about what could happen if Pooh Shiesty is released, explaining that he now watches every unfamiliar vehicle passing his house because he fears someone connected to the rapper could show up. Now, maybe some people think that's an overreaction, but considering everything that's alleged in this case, it's not impossible to understand why he feels that way. Imagine being a retired police officer and suddenly finding yourself in the middle of something like this. You'd probably be thinking, there's no way this is actually happening. Whether you agree or not, the fear he's describing sounds genuine. He even said his family's daily routine has changed because of those concerns and asked the judge to prioritize their safety by keeping Pooh Shiesty in custody.
Personally, I understand why he made that request. At this point, they might as well put a recording studio inside the facility because that's where things seem headed. On top of that, investigators also released alleged text messages connected to the planning of the robbery. One contact was reportedly saved as Michael Myers, which prosecutors claim referred to Pooh Shiesty himself, a nickname borrowed from the famous horror movie character known for relentlessly chasing people down.
One of the messages says, "I need 6:30 for Saturday." Another person replies, "Pulling up on what?" followed by +2 drivers. Then you've got another contact saved as Charles Manson, which honestly, with a name like that, you already know how that's going to look. Another message comes in asking, "What do we need to do?" Somebody responds, "Bet," and I'm assuming that's Big 30 since investigators say these messages came from his phone. Then another person jumps in saying, "Bet I'm there. Where are we pulling up? Where do I need to be?" These messages make it seem like everybody was ready to go. You know how Lil Wayne used to rap about his trigger finger itching? That's the type of energy these conversations give off. These guys sound like they're always on go, TTG, trained to go. They weren't just saying it in the music, that's how they allegedly moved. Another message reads, "I'm there, just let me know." Then someone says they need drivers. After that, another message asks, "30, where you at?" Investigators say this conversation happened on January 7th, just 3 days before everything allegedly went down. Then someone replies, "Bet, when y'all leaving?" Another response says, "Finna leave the A, it's on Shiesty and who he picks to come." Reading those messages, it almost sounds like people were hoping to get selected, like pick me, pick me. It's almost like waiting to get picked for a basketball game, except this wasn't the game. Another message mentions having the TRX but says it burns too much gas, followed by another saying everybody couldn't go over to somebody's house because people around there were already suspicious. Then another contact was reportedly added to the group chat. From the screenshots, it appears the conversation took place on Signal, the encrypted messaging app. One of the contacts was saved as Double Back. Now, if you're the retired police officer asking the judge not to release Pooh Shiesty on bond, seeing a name like Double Back probably isn't going to make you feel any better. Investigators also say another message instructed everyone to get in touch with someone immediately, calling it a 911 situation and telling everybody to be ready. Then what appears to be Big 30 responds by asking, "So y'all ain't driving?" A lot of people online keep saying encrypted apps protect everything, but that's not necessarily how it works. These aren't transcripts obtained directly from Signal. They appear to be photos taken from somebody's unlocked phone. If law enforcement physically has your phone and they're able to open the app, then those messages can become evidence. From there, investigators can identify phone numbers, determine who belongs to which contact, and start connecting the dots. The real question is how they accessed the device in the first place. Did someone cooperate? Was the phone unlocked? Did someone provide the passcode? Because if they couldn't access the phone, you'd expect to see something different instead of screenshots like these. Or maybe these screenshots aren't being used as courtroom evidence at all and were simply released publicly as part of the investigation. Either way, let's shift over to the music side because this is where things get really interesting. Earlier, I joked that Gucci Mane already told everybody what happened because he literally made music about it. But financially, this could end up being one of the smartest business decisions he's ever made. Pooh Shiesty's catalog is still pulling major streaming numbers, and as this case continues to receive attention, those numbers could keep climbing. If the case eventually gets televised the way the YSL trial did, interest in his music could increase even more. Even if Pooh Shiesty ends up serving significant time, history has shown that an artist's streaming numbers don't necessarily slow down. Just look at Lil Durk, who's still among the most streamed artists on Apple Music. The difference here is that Gucci Mane still owns the rights to a large portion of Pooh Shiesty's music. Something else I covered recently was Pooh Shiesty's collaboration with Glorilla. The song had been reportedly recorded long before, leaked shortly after this latest incident, and then disappeared for months before finally receiving an official release. At first, it showed up under a profile called Shiesty Glow, almost like it had been distributed independently rather than through a major label. That immediately raised questions because there were rumors that Pooh Shiesty wanted out of his deal with Gucci Mane so he could eventually move over to CMG under Yo Gotti. But when the official release finally arrived, it was credited directly to Glorilla and Pooh Shiesty and carried both 1017 and Atlantic on one side along with CMG and Interscope on the other. Since Glorilla is signed to CMG while Pooh Shiesty remains signed to 1017, that tells us Gucci Mane had to approve the release. In other words, Pooh Shiesty is still under his contract. We all know Gucci Mane and Yo Gotti have had their differences over the years, but from a business perspective, maybe both sides recognized there was money to be made. Gucci could have looked at the situation and thought, if this guy is about to spend the next decade or possibly even longer in prison, especially if these allegations involving a retired police officer hold up, then I might as well authorize the record and make money from it. What still interests me is exactly how the release happened, because when the song first appeared, it wasn't attached to either artist's official streaming pages. It was sitting under that separate Shiesty Glow profile before everything was eventually updated. So clearly something changed behind the scenes. We still don't know exactly what happened, but one thing is obvious. For that official release to happen, Gucci Mane had to approve it, and that approval appears to have come recently. Otherwise, the record would have been released long before all of this. My guess is they've been trying to clear that song for quite a while. Regardless, Pooh Shiesty's catalog is probably going to keep growing because people are always drawn to controversial stories. You can call his actions reckless, impulsive, or outright foolish, but people are still listening to the music. Anyway, let me know what y'all think down in the comments.